Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks exciting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. Oh, and just one more thing before we go. Please consider like, commenting, and subscribing if you enjoyed the video. But now with all that out of the way, let's carry on with the video. Okay, so starting off with the drawers in these library sets, we want to make sure we prime them up. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of pieces here, but I've primed them all up exactly in the same color, which is just with a nice simple black primer. And then we're going to start off with some mahogany brown to get a base color of our wood. So now giving every shelving unit all this color of mahogany, so that you get quite a few pieces in this Mantic set with the library set. So we want to make sure we give everything that's wood a nice good covering of the mahogany here, making sure that we definitely want to get in between and behind all those gaps. So it could be tricky, you may have to switch between a few different brushes to do this, but just take your time and you'll be able to get through it nice and simple with this color. So then once we got our base coats down, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some leather brown, which of course is a nice lighter brown, and we're going to be using this in a dry brushing fashion to really get all those highlights on our mahogany brown. Now it does go reasonably well with this mahogany brown. It does seem like a lighter step up, but pretty much any brown will do as long as it's a slightly lighter color. And of course we want to be giving it a nice vigorous overall dry brushing here, being pretty rough with everything because we're in the nice base coating stages and all we've done is painted up the wood, so we can be really rough with our dry brush and really get on that good texture that we want to have here, making sure we go around every side of the piece. And of course there is a lot of these pieces, so don't forget to do each individual one with the dry brushing there, so we get the effect as a uniform cohesive look across the whole thing here. Okay, so I picked out one of the shelving units here and coming in with some oak brown. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be painting up just a few things inside. Now, the camera angle is going to be very tricky and it's a very dark area, but I'm trying to get it in there as much as I can. But there's a little set of drawers in there and I'm going to be going over it with the oak brown to give it that color. And you see it's very, very difficult to film inside there. I'm trying my best trying to get it underneath the light. But there's a few things in there. There's like a little picture frame style or like ornament holder on there, as well as a little bookshelf, but I'm painting those up in the oak brown, which is going to be the nice darker brown. It's going to stick out a little bit on the shelving unit. And the reason why I picked the shelving unit is it has a lot of different things on here that we're going to be using throughout the whole tutorial, so it's nice and easy to show you all on this one, but it will apply to all the other bookshelves in this set of miniatures. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be moving on to the books of the shelving unit. Now there is a lot of books here, and I'm just quickly flashing this screen a bunch of the colors that I'll be using. I'll even be using a bunch more of these colors to show you that it's completely random, and you can choose whatever colors you want and you think look right for your bookshelves. So using red here, so I'm trying to use a varied amount of colors. Now you can of course use browns and stuff that you want here, but I want to go with nice bright colors so they stick out on the miniature rather than having like leather tones and stuff, because I want to add that visual interest, and adding in a lot of color is going to really help bring these bookshelves to life. So don't be afraid, use whatever color you want here. You can see what I used while painting these up, but this is only a rough guide. Don't feel obliged to stick to exactly what I use here. Use any color you want to brighten up all those books in the bookshelves. So once we have the books all painted up in various colors, I'm going to come back in with some khaki now. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be picking out just a couple of bits here. So I'm trying to pick out the very edge of our display frame that we have in this bookshelving unit itself. And I'm just going really carefully around the edge. And as well as that, I'm also going to be picking out just a couple of the drawers on our set of drawers that we have on the shelf, in a very tiny little case of drawers there. So I'm just going to be picking out just a couple. We already applied the oak brown to these before, so this is already stick out, so you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I want to add a little bit more lighter color in there. So I'm only going to be applying it to the top two and not the bottom two. Okay, so now we're moving on to our little library desk here that you get in the set. And I'm going to be using cavalry brown here, and all I'm going to be doing is just applying the cavalry brown just to the top of the miniature, so it's got a nice sort of leather or fine wood texture on the top of this desk here. Now again, this color is totally up to you. I'm going with a nice red here, or reddish brown I should say here, so it's not quite red and it's not quite brown, so it's going to fit with a lot more things, and it's sort of a more neutral color than if I was to just paint this, say, bright blue. I'm going for modularity, and it can fit in with anything rather than having a strict theme. But if you have a theme, by all means go ahead and stick with the theme. Okay, so moving on back to our desk with a whole assortment of random things on it. We're going to come in now with some dark sea blue. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be just picking out the little globe that it has sitting on there. Now, again, this is totally up to you whether you want to do it. You may want to paint it red, or it may be a magical sphere, which I think I may be turning it into more of a magical sphere rather than a globe. I don't want to try and draw tiny little continents and stuff on there, so I think I'm going to have it as sort of like a magical orb that's in this nice library there to look at. Okay, so one other thing you get in this library set from Mantic is you get this big pile of books all stacked up haphazardly, and there's also a little bit of parchment on there, and that's what we're going to be picking out right now. It's picking out all the parchment, and since these sculpted a little bit bigger than the books on the bookshelves, we can actually get in and paint the pages of the books as well. So I'm going to be doing this exact thing with the mummy robes as well. So I'm going to be painting up the big bit of parchment on the bottom, as well as all the pages of the books, all with this mummy robes. Now this is going to take a few coats since we have primed this in black, so don't be afraid if this takes you a little bit of time and takes you 3 or 4 coats to get it properly to how you want it. But again, you may want a little bit of darker pages in there as well. Okay, so moving on to another piece of the library set that we haven't painted up yet is the little ladder that you get to reach the high shelves. So I'm going to be, of course, using leather brown to do this. I want this to be a different color than the wood color we've already used, because I don't think most libraries have their ladders match the shelving on there. They very much could, and you very much as well could paint them up exactly the same way as well to save you some time. But I want to try to go for a little bit more realism than for speed here. But again, these are nice terrain pieces, and I want to give them their sort of full value and worth out of them. So just going on with a different brown here. Any brown, I just chose leather brown since it's what we've already used for the highlights, but it will still slightly match in with our miniatures. Okay, so going back into our pile of books that we've got here, I'm going to be using some charred brown, which is a super dark brown, and I'm going to be using this to just be picking out all the little bookmarks that are in these pages, since this wizard or librarian has been rifling through these books and wants to save these pages in this nice stacked up pile that they want to keep for their research. It's a great piece for showing off a library in any game you're playing. And you can see here that I've also just applied the same colors that I was using to painting up the books in our bookshelves. So go wild with it, use whatever colors, don't be restricted to 1 or 2 colors, or even the same colors you use on the bookshelf. So it's totally up to you what you want to do there. Okay, so moving back to our bookshelf that has all sorts of random things on it, we're going to come in with some gunmetal now. And I'm going to be using the gunmetal to just be painting up the sort of holder that's holding this globe up, or the magical orb, whatever you've decided to paint it up as. I'll paint it up more as a orb, maybe a scrying orb, or it could also be a representation of a blue planet. So I'm just painting that up there, trying to add in a little metallic in there, and it's just adding in another color and that more visual interest to the piece. And as well as that, we also want to be painting up all the little handles on our sets of bookshelves here, and you can see on this one there's little cupboards and stuff, and then not all of them have them. As well as that, we also want to, as you can see here, grab the library desk, and I'm just painting up the little handles on the drawers. As well as that, there's also the ladder, so you can reach the top shelving and get those really high up there books. Also has some little metal studs on the side of it as well, so I'm making sure that I'm picking those out as well. Just adding that little bit of metallic in there is going to help adding a lot of visual interest to all the overall pieces and all the wood that we've got so far. So once we have that done, we have all completed our base coat. So now it's time to go happy, go large, go big, and don't even worry about what we're doing here, because we're just grabbing agrax, earthshade, or any brown wash, and we are placing it and slapping it over everything, trying to get into all those little nooks and crannies all over the books. We're not worrying about it. We're just being crazy with it and making sure that we're covering absolutely everything. I'm not going to worry too much about trying to keep the metallics and stuff separate. It's so little and minor that you're not going to notice it if I switch it up with some known oil. But of course, by all means, you can go in there with a little known oil and just get those very small spots. But I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going for just all over brown, keeping everything nice and simple at this point, because we already have the added detail. We're picking out the metallics rather than worrying about just shading the metallic bits in there. So go wild, go crazy, and just agrax earthshade everything. And then once all those washes are completely dry, all we're going to do now for just one highlight, is the only thing I want to have, is I just want to pick out the metal spots again, just using our gunmetal to brighten them all back up. It's the only thing we're going to worry about here. I'm not going to highlight anything else. But if you want to highlight some of the edges of the books, go ahead, be my guest. I'm not going to worry about that, because I want the library to be sort of variable, whether it's not a brand new library and it's not an old library, and there may be some dirty old books there. So keeping the agrax earthshade and giving that little bit of variety and texture is going to keep that interest there, rather than having to go back and manually highlight every single one. But once we've done that, we have finished painting up our library set. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up the library set from Mantic Games. And as you can see, it can be a real knockout, stunning piece on the gaming set when you have all those little bits of color popped out, and you can see the multiple ways you can arrange a nice terrain piece like this. So I hope this has inspired you to paint up a bit more terrain, maybe even buy the set yourself and see how much of a awesome thing it can be when you're playing your games. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys, whether you just follow along or you just enjoy watching me paint up some cool miniatures. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.